Temporary Australians is proudly brought to you by Harley Davidson Australia, Fraser Motorcycles, Brotherhood CMC, Victory Motorcycles, the Australian Motorcycle Expo, Austrikes, and Think Right.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Temporary Australians. I'm Jonesy.
I'm Hirsty.
And what an action-packed show we have lined up for you today.
In the last episode of Series 2, we check out a special custom chopper. We discover the advantages of a helmet camera. Jonesy talks to passionate motorcyclists and New South Wales Police Commissioner Andrew Scipione. We find out why Redfern Motorcycles moved to Corrimal near Wollongong. We find out about racing in the West. We check out Wildcard Customs. We find out how to start bikers really young. I reflect on how to figure out the God stuff. And we find out what it's like to have the wind in your hair. Chris, this is an incredible looking bike. What's it doing in Australia?
Yeah, it is. Well, this was built as a show bike for one of our clients here in Victoria, actually. And it's similar to a range of bikes that Big Bear have done for Chris Angel, the illusionist. And he had a few of these bikes, and the owner of this bike was inspired by those bikes and asked Kevin Allsop over there to build him something special.
The paintwork's really impressive. What's the theme of it?
The theme of the paintwork is Gates of Hell, as you can see on the back guard there. Just to give you an idea, was 10,000 US. And that's indication of the time it takes to paint it.
Well, the bike itself's quite expensive too.
Look, it is. It was 135,000 this bike. Yeah, so it's quite special, yeah.
How long would it take to make a bike like this, you reckon?
The tins on that, for example, were created by hand, so there's a lot of work in just doing that. So it took around 2 years in total to get that bike finished, but really, probably about between 6 and 8 months if it was worked on full time.
Is this essentially just a bike you put on display? It doesn't look like you could ride it anywhere.
Nah, look, you go on a short ride, but yeah, it's a show bike.
So if we were going to take this for a short distance, how fast do you reckon you get up to?
Oh, mate, look, it'd probably, theoretically it'd do a couple of 100 Ks, but would you want to ride that at 200 Ks? I don't think so.
If you've ever been for a ride and you wish you hadn't been pulled over by the police, well, here's a simple solution. Wear a helmet cam, then you can film everything that happens. You can also film the ride too. Art, thank you very much for this. Tell us about the helmet cam.
Yeah, so we basically now allow any consumer to produce broadcast quality high definition video of their rides simply by strapping it on their helmet. We got different types of mounts that will allow you to put it on your chest like that back there, or maybe put it even on a handlebar or stick it on the fairing.
So how much footage can it actually store in the unit?
So it depends on the resolution that you select, but up to about 640 minutes on a 64 gigabyte card.
Well, you can get a fairly decent ride on that, I would think.
Not bad, yeah.
What's been the reaction from the motorcyclists coming to the show?
Enormous. People are loving us. I'm actually really excited to see that. There are a lot of people who know us. I'd say about 40% of the people that are walking in the booth actually know about our products, and the rest actually have never heard of us before. So it's great. I get to educate people. They love it. Very excited to actually get out there and buy one and experience it themselves.
I'm sure that a lot of people just want to film the ride so they've got the memory, but it does lend towards, particularly riders who feel like they're getting unfairly addressed by the authorities, being able to film the encounters that they might have, or if they have an accident for that matter, being able to prove that they didn't make the mistake that caused the accident. Maybe it was a car coming through an intersection. They can prove all of that now.
That's correct. Actually, that's a very popular use for our cameras, especially for riders. One thing in particular that our new camera has is a looping feature. So basically, instead of filling up and stopping, it'll continue recording. It'll keep looping and recording over the old footage. And so if you do have an incident, you could then go ahead and stop it and then have that available to show as proof for insurance purposes or something like that.
Well, we've just arrived at the Goulburn Police Academy, and we're with Andrew Skibiani. He is of course, the commissioner as I like to call him. And Andrew, you're riding a police bike.
Yeah, absolutely. These are they're a fine machine, the Yamaha FJR. I've got to tell you, I'll let you know a little secret. When I first joined the job in 1980, it wasn't long before I actually was put on a police bike. I went and did my course, and I was fortunate enough to pass, and I've had a love of motorcycles that goes back some 30 odd years now, so it's great to get on a police bike again.
What's it like to be a motorcycle copper?
Fantastic job, the freedom that you enjoy, and they even pay you to ride them, which is even better.
Did you ever get any hairy chases?
Yeah, you do, and but you've got to be sensible. You know that you're a bit fragile on a motorbike if something goes wrong, and particularly at speed. And a siren doesn't give you any protection. I've got to tell you it. But with a lot of common sense and a little bit of good luck, I think often you find that you get by. I never came off anyway.
More good luck than anything.
Yeah, probably. From time to time. But look, we engineer our luck because of the training that these guys and girls go through, and it is pretty extensive.
I've always imagined when you see a motorcycle copper, you tend to have a bit more an awareness of them. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, look, that's fair to say, and I think certainly one of the problems that us cyclists know is people don't necessarily always see you in their blind spots. It's rarely they don't see a police motorcycle in their blind spot because they're so aware, and that's good for cycling generally, I think.
And so do you want me to ride this back?
Yeah, you could do that. I'm not going to ride your black one back though, because I like bikes that steer and stop.
See, I don't know what it is with police and the Harleys. They're a great bike. I don't know what it is.
No, they are great bikes, but we like these right now. Thank you very much, Brendan.
Well, my dad's got one of these, so that just says it all.
A man of great taste.
No, it just says it all.
When I first got into motorcycling back in the late 70s, Jono and Jack and Redfern Motorcycles were synonymous with the biker culture. 1% clubs used to send their bikes there to get worked on. If you needed parts, then they'd just go there. People would turn up and just ask for something, and Jono and Jack would dive into their pile of parts on the floor and pull out whatever you needed. Those were the foundational days in motorcycling, certainly in Sydney, and Redfern Motorcycles is still around.
It's an icon name, and I had no intent of trying to emulate John. There's only one Redfern Motorcycles, and whilst John visits fairly regularly and we keep in contact, it was never the goal. The goal was, as an enthusiast, when it was offered, to grab all these parts. And then when I sold my business, we moved in here, which used to be an old pharmacy, so it's kind of neat having these vintage bikes in here with parts and accessories and people ringing up wanting stuff. We sell it all around the world. More of a hobby. But gee, every day we come in, it's always great opening up, and what are we going to play with today?
Now, you've got so many bikes on the floor here, you've virtually got a museum.
Yeah, I guess it is in a certain way. Most people that have been around motorcycles a while enjoy coming into a shop like this, because this is how they kind of used to be. There are no aisles or racks of things that you should be purchasing on your way to the counter. These are good snapshots of the periods 30s and 40s particularly. Some 50s and into late shovels and early Evos. So it's sort of the way I kind of like it, and without too many rules and regulations, you can come on in and have a wander around and see what they looked like back then.
It seems a little bit out of place in this row of golden oldies, but you would expect to see something like it in Easy Rider, I reckon. Tell us about it, Sean.
This bike was brought in the early 70s. It's actually classed as what they call a San Fran design. It was done in San Francisco. It was brought in that 70s period and had no front brake, hardtail seat, and I don't know how they rode them back in those days. Pretty much what you see here is how it was. I haven't changed it much, and I don't intend to in that respect, just made it more rideable. It goes quick, it runs around corners, it just loves it. It's just a very, very nice little toy to ride.
How does it get on with the Aussie potholes? Are they good friends?
You need to make sure you spot the pothole before you hit it, mate, because it can really give you something to think about. But with the little 3-inch springs underneath it with my weight,
that works well.
It's enough. It's enough, but I do know about it at the end of the day, mate, when I'm walking away and I'm wanting my Luxo bike. Speaking
of Jono and Redfern Motorcycles, we actually got the old 1200 in the sidecar.
Yeah, neat example. This is, was seen around Redfern and the CBD of Sydney for many a decade. Neat bike. And when I bought Redfern from John, This wasn't included. This came a number of years later. He enjoyed taking the grandchildren for rides on it. And then one day the phone went and said, Tony, do you, and I said, absolutely. So we've registered it, we've maintained the rego and zoom around on it. I love the sign writing. I mean, you just can't replace that. The people that have been around in the Redfern days always sort of cloud over a little bit with their memories of seeing the old bikes zooming around.
Well, that's why I think it's good, even though you don't really call it a museum, having these bikes here is actually a window into the past.
Well, events like this just don't happen without the support of great supporters. And one of the great supporters, obviously, of Suzuki Classic Dirt 9 is Suzuki. And Perry Morrison is the General Manager of Suzuki. Perry, you must be proud of this event.
Yeah, we are, Brendan. It's been fantastic. We've been behind the event from the very beginning. So, yeah, I'm proud of it. We love doing it.
What's your favourite Suzuki? Out of all the Suzukis in the world of Suzukis.
Now, that's a really, really tough question.
Okay, I'll narrow it down. Obviously, motocross, okay, between 1976 and 1982.
Oh, that's easy. 1976 was my first Suzuki motocross race bike, so RM250A 76 model. I'll list that at the top, and there were many that followed though.
I was hoping you'd say the PE175 because no doubt you saw me out there on the track earlier in the day, and a lot of people were saying that Mr. Motocross had actually come back here.
Well, I did, and actually I brought a contract along because we're looking for a good PE175 legend, but my staff advised me, not to pursue that direction. They just want to keep supporting these guys.
Well, no, you should, don't listen to your staff. Go with your heart. Go with your heart, Perry.
Well, I've got to take their good advice, so we'll see.
Thank you for your time, and can I have a bike?
You can have a ride. We've got some new...
No, but could I just give me one? No one's going to know. She's got heaps of them.
We've got some new 2013 RMZ 450s here, and you can have a ride, but you've got to give it back.
Tell us about those race bikes that you've got here at Fraser's.
Okay, we have a couple of race bikes here. One's a Ducati, and behind me is the Harley Davidson drag bike. This one here is powered by a 120 cubic inch motor, which is a crate motor. Now we've up-spec'd it very slightly, but anybody can walk in and buy one, put it in their own Harley if they want to do that. Basically we run this as like a demonstration drag bike. It gives the guys in the workshop a chance to ride something fast on a drag strip. The Ducati behind us here is been raced by an Englishman called Shaky Bourne, and it was raced in the British Superbike series. It's owned by a collector who bought it off him and then has restored it to basically showroom condition. The bike is probably worth in excess of 150 to 200. Now these are circuit racing, which is full-on racing with say 20-30 guys in the pack, in the field, as opposed to drag racing where you're running two bikes side by side.
Tell us about your riding experience. You've done a lot of racing over here in Western Australia.
I have, yes. Been involved with the Historic Racing Club since about the late 80s, when we used to have round houses road racing.
When you say round houses, that literally was a street race.
It literally was a street race, yes. We used to have it at places like Collie, which was down south. There was also another event called the York Flying 50, which was very popular up here. They're usually around smaller country towns, and they close the streets off. And it's supposed to be a fast demonstration event, but it always turns into a race.
Tell us about the bike you're sitting on, mate.
Now this bike you're sitting on's what's called an Athena Pro Street, and it's been built for Doc Robinson. He's a tech writer from Heavy Duty magazine, so he's going to do a series of it in the magazine. He came up and spent a week with us filming it and taking a lot of photographs of it while Adam built it.
Tell us about the motor. How big is it? What sort of output has it got?
This particular engine's 111 cube. Our standard engines, and most of our bikes have 100. The 100's got plenty of power really for this type of cruiser. This is 111, so that's around about 115 horsepower, where the 100s are about 104.
Top speed?
Look, top speed is probably just over 200. Yeah.
Cruising speed is the speed limit, I guess.
Look, cruising speed is a speed limit, but comfortably, if we're allowed to, you'd probably cruise between 125 and 140. Yeah.
Really, they're designed as a highway bike, I guess, aren't they?
No, look, they're very comfortable on the highway. They're very stable because of the size of the bikes, the extra length. But we ride them everywhere. You ride them through the windy stuff as well. A little bit slower with the 300s on the rear, but the 250s, 250 rears will be just as quick as any Softails on the market. Yeah.
The design of the tank and all the handlebars, all the chrome work we see, is that something that the customers decide on before you build it?
Yeah, look, we have about 12 models, so the frame design, tank design, front end design is consistent with those models, so the customer will pick out which model they want, and then from there they'll pick their wheels, pick their paint colours, and we can make a few modifications there.
So just a rough estimate, what would someone be up for if they wanted to get a bike like this?
Oh look, this particular bike's just under 50 on the road, about 49.8 on the road, where our straight colour bare bones, for instance, is 35.7 on the road. So between $35,000 and $50,000. We try to keep our price at a good level for what you're getting.
And do you get a lot of positive public reaction when you're riding?
Yeah, we do. It's it's like a hot rod, It's a two-wheeled hot rod is the way we look at it. But yeah, we do.
What makes someone get into dirt track racing? Steve, what makes someone get into dirt track racing?
Well, for me, it was the opportunity to give my son the skills to learn to ride a motorbike, so that he may turn out to be a Casey or a Mick, but if he doesn't and later on he gets a road bike, at least he'll have the skills to make him safe on the road and maybe a safer car driver. But obviously he's really enjoying it, and I'm enjoying bringing him out here, so we'll see how we go. This is his first dirt track meeting. He's done a few little motocross meetings, so today will be a real adventure and something to watch.
Hey Dylan, how are you? Dad's expecting big times today, okay, mate? You spent a lot of money on this bike. You've got to go through and race hard, okay?
I know.
I can't help but notice that your bike's a little bit dirty. Do you think you should give it a wash?
No. When I just turned, I almost broke my back.
You broke your... Did he say he broke his back? Has he broken his back?
No, you haven't.
No, you haven't broken your back. It's just a flesh wound, mate. Nope. How fast does this go, Dylan?
50 kilometres fast.
Mate, so that means in school zones, you wouldn't be able to ride through your own school zone.
No.
Dylan, this has been a wonderful chat. Do you know this could be the future Casey Stoner right here? Dylan, I'm gonna write my name down, and then when you're rich and famous, you're gonna buy me a gift, okay? It's a Jedi mind trick. Buy Jonesy a gift. Say it. Buy Jonesy a gift.
Buy Jonesy a gift.
My plan is working.
Now, I've been in a Christian bike club for well over 35 years now, and it never ceases to amaze me how many people I run into just who will quietly tell me how they're trying to figure out the God stuff. Although probably on the quiet, probably not telling their mates. When I was 20, I was trying to figure it out, and I told my mates down the pub, and all they did was laugh at me. So I just kind of worked on my own, and I'd gone through a time where I felt alone and alienated from my friends. And I remembered all the God stuff I'd been given when I was a kid at school and scripture classes, so I started checking it out and reading the New Testament and reading the words of Jesus. For some months I was tossing it around, and then finally I got to the point where I thought I'd pray. Now, I didn't know if God was there or not, but I actually had an encounter with him. And that encounter was a little bit different to what I expected. It wasn't anything that you could see or touch, but it was an inner warmth and peace I'd never had before. And it really turned my life around at the time. I was on the verge of necking myself when I started trying to figure this out. When you have an encounter with God, it's not something that's visible or something you can touch, but it's something invisible and inward. And that's what happened to me. I just had this warmth and peace I'd never had before. And as I read the words in the good book, I realised I'd actually become a Christian. But it just made it clear to me that anyone at any time, no matter what they're doing, they can find God and have a real relationship with him through Jesus.
Jump starts are a great fun tool though for everyone. Anyone can get on them who hasn't ridden a bike before or wants to learn how to move the clutch and the accelerator, and it's just a great feeling, and it's a lot of fun for people who haven't ridden before to get on a bike and get that whole Harley look and feel about it.
I guess that's really the whole point, isn't it? Is you can actually feel like you're riding hard but not moving at all.
Yeah, that's right. We even put the fans on so you got the wind in the hair and feels like the real thing, So yeah, no, look, it's a really, really great tool, because a lot of people sometimes get a bit intimidated by motorcycles, especially, Harleys. I think they're big and so forth, and I can't ride one of those. But when they actually get on it and they start to, work the clutch and feel the accelerator and the rumble and the power of the V-twin, they actually really loved it. It's a great sensation and a great feeling.
It's not as easy as my scooter, which was just go stop, but it was very good. It was scary, but I didn't stall it, so I'm happy.
That was fantastic, but I got 2 speeding tickets. Yeah, he said I went too fast. But it was cool, yeah, it was good. I asked the guy if I could buy it, and he said that I had to because I blew the gearbox apparently. But apart from that, it was cool.
Mate, did you enjoy that?
I love that. It's the best show we've ever done. We should seal it. We should hang it up on the wall and hang it out as one of our greatest shows ever.
You're easy to please, aren't you, mate?
Actually, I am. I am, Greg.